Sick of losing to this big old piggy and his unbeatable one-shot? You have come to the right place. This video will give you the strategies on every position to stop him from destroying your team and start your climb on the ladder. Make sure you stick around for the entire guide so you know what to ask your shitty team to switch to. Before we get into how to counter Roadhog, we need to understand Roadhog as a hero to exploit his weaknesses. A quick note. The balance patch notes for Roadhog literally dropped while I was editing this video. Taking a quick look at this patch, this guide will hold true as they failed to actually rework him like they said they were going to. During the ability section of this guide, I will include the updated damage numbers for post-patch Roadhog to keep this guide relevant. Roadhog has come into his own since the swap to 5v5 and is so broken even the devs have acknowledged that he needs to be changed. With the rework coming, well, whenever Blizzard gets to it, we definitely need to know what to do to stop him so we can try and finish the season strong. Let's break down his abilities to understand what we're up against. Scrap Gun is Roadhog's primary fire. This is a shotgun that shoots this dirty man's trash directly in your face with a shotgun spread. It does 49.5 to 165 damage per shot and is one of the elements that goes into his one-shot combo. Scrap Gun also has a secondary fire that fires his ball of hot garbage out in front of him before it explodes into a shotgun blast. Take a Breather is the first of our massively broken abilities that Hog holds. If Hog is in trouble, he can utilize this ability to heal for a whopping 350 health while simultaneously getting a 50% damage reduction, making him pretty well impossible to kill. As the saga of broken abilities moves forward, we come to Chain Hook. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's a hook on a chain that Hog throws out and hooks his enemies with. When enemies are hooked, they are pulled back into his big old belly and usually shot in the face, then meleeed to instantly unfun their game. This has a max range of 20 meters depending on who you ask and how the game code is feeling, and supposedly has an AoE of 0.5 meters. Oh, it also does 30 damage on impact. Whole Hog is Hog's ultimate. While it is good, I'd say it's arguably the only thing in his kit that's decently balanced. In Whole Hog, Hog rapid fires all of his scrap from his gun like he's blending up some Jamba Juice and sprays it in front of him. This does a total of 4,928 damage, but with how widespread it is, often won't secure kills. Whole Hog also pushes enemies back, which is more commonly what it's used for. The key philosophy to countering Hog is being able to negate his one-shot as best as possible, or be able to whittle down his absurd health pool from range and outlast him in a long fight. A good Hog will absolutely not make this easy, but you will encounter a lot of bad Hogs on the ladder right now, as his OP abilities make him an easy crutch for bad players to win games due to the enemy's inability to counter him. They should probably watch my videos. Remember when playing against Hog that it will be increasingly important to keep track of his cooldowns and always be aware of where he is to keep out of LOS while still effectively doing your job. The best DPS counter to Hog is going to be Pharah. Pharah can all but ignore Hog as a damage dealing threat, as the likelihood that Hog actually hits her with his hook is extremely low, and you're able to spam from a long distance where a shotgun will have no effect. Not only is Pharah great due to this, but she is also a strong pick in lower ELO due to the necessity of teamwork to counter her most of the time. Shameless plug, if that's you, check out my counter guide for Pharah. Your plan on Pharah in this matchup is going to be simple: stay in the sky away from Hog and cause death and destruction from above. Hog is completely unable to do anything at all unless you make a mistake, which leaves the ball in your hands. To get a bit more in depth, utilize your jetpacks to get high in the sky and into the position over his team, behind them, or even in your own backline and fire rockets past him. Absolutely do not waste your time firing rockets at him unless you can see no one else. Hog is not your target. The goal is to cut him off from all support and leave him on an island. Pharah's concussive blast will also come in handy here. Your goal ideally will be to throw this down between him and his backline, pushing him forward and then back, separating them from him and pushing him out by himself. The one ability that is not going to be super great here will be your ultimate, Barrage. Unfortunately, Barrage leaves you hanging in one place significantly lower to the ground than you would usually want to be. When you go to use Barrage, which yes, you should definitely still do, wait to see or hear Hog's hook activate, so he's unable to turn around and hook you out of it. I would also highly recommend aiming Barrage at the rest of his team, not him, as he can survive if he has Take a Breather up due to the damage reduction and healing that it gains. Not a fan of flying characters? Same. My small brain can't comprehend aiming and flying at the same time, so here's a DPS counter that doesn't fly. Ashe is great against Hog for similar reasons as Pharah. Her ability to stay out of range of all of Hog's abilities while dealing damage to him and his backline makes her the winner in this matchup. As Ashe, the idea is mostly the same without as much mobility. You will want to find a high ground position to set up, channel your inner American sniper, and start picking off his team. Shooting Hog on Ashe isn't as bad an idea as it was on Pharah, as you can hit headshots and pressure him quite a bit, but your main focus should still be the same, his backline. The recurring theme here is focus his backline, get him alone, win games. Ashe can boost into cheeky positions with her coach gun to get you a great LOS of his backline. From here you will want to fire away raining hell on those little squishies. For Ashe's TNT, you will want to always target the backline and utilize it to help push them away from Hog and into cover, as he will probably ignore the tiny amount of damage it does, but squishy characters do not have the same ability. Ashe's ultimate Bob is going to basically just be an extension of you. Throw him into the backline and let him do his thing. It is important to remember that Hog can hook Bob, so do your best to make sure that Hog is either in a position that it would be bad to hook him into, or just wait until you know it's on cooldown. Absolutely do not throw Bob while he is hook out if there is an environmental hazard available, as Hog will be able to kill him instantly by hooking him into a stupid river or off a cliff. Regardless of which DPS you are playing, the rules against Hog are simple. Focus the backline, stay away from him, watch his cooldowns. If your character can't accomplish these tasks, you should probably pick a different one. Without a doubt, the best tank counter goes to Orisa. Orisa was quite literally buffed by the dev team as a band-aid to fight against Hog on the ladder until they put in his rework. When the devs buff something to counter something specific, there's two things to take away. 1. That's the counter, use it. 2. The thing it's countering is broken and annoying, and our dev team is lazy. Anyway, this golden horsey is here to save us all. On the upside, new Orisa is actually pretty fun to play. Countering Hog on Orisa comes down to two simple tactics. Orisa can go toe-to-toe with Hog's health pool, and she can do damage at longer range than him. There are more techs that can make this matchup a lot easier, which we will go over shortly, but the short and sweet of this counter is this. Orisa can deal damage from a much further range than Hog, and he is massive, so you should easily land shots on his whale-sized hitbox. When Hog does get in close, Orisa can negate a ton of his damage with her spinny spear and her golden form, which evens up the matchup. Now, let's get to the tech. The number one thing Orisa does best against Hog is interrupt to take a breather. Whenever you see Hog try to take a breather, you need to spear him. This will instantly stop the ability and leave him in, most likely, a terrible position with no health and lead to his instant demise. Orisa's ultimate is one of the few times in this matchup that you won't really be focusing Hog. When you are ready to ult, you want to use your ability to survive to walk right past Fatty and ult his backline. Outside of her ultimate, this may be the only tank counter where I tell you to focus Hog and only Hog. Orisa's job in a Hog matchup is simple: keep Hog from doing Hog things. Your entire existence here revolves around you stopping Hog from being annoying, which means that, unlike most matchups, you do want to focus solely on him and use all of your abilities to stop him from dominating your team. Are you a hipster who refuses to be a slave to the meta? Well, don't you worry, I have another tank pick for you. We like to keep things interesting out here, and let's be honest, playing Orisa every game and fighting a Roadhog can be a bit boring. So, if you want to spice things up, I would recommend D.Va. D.Va has long been a personal favorite of mine. She was actually my first main when I started playing off-tank. She does well in this matchup due to her mobility and one ability that we'll get to shortly. As D.Va, you are going to do exactly the opposite of what I just told you to do on Orisa. If you try to fight only Hog, you will die. A lot. D.Va's job in this matchup is to get behind Hog and wreak havoc on the backline. Obviously, this will take a bit of teamwork, and I wouldn't recommend playing her if your team isn't on a comp that can capitalize and help you on your dive. But if you can get people who are actually willing to play the game, this is a creative and fun way to ruin Hog's day. When we dive the backline, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. Do your best to set up your dive in a manner where you can get in without using your jetpacks and get out using them. This is often good on maps with high and low ground where you can go up top where Hog can't reach you, do a bit of spam down, then drop on a target, kill, and boost back to your team. While this can be difficult to execute, the more you practice, the more you will get used to this cycle. The big thing that helps D.Va in this matchup is defense matrix. Remember earlier when I said one of the keys to beating Hog was negating his one-shot? Well, that is exactly what DM is used for. You will want to always be watching for Hog's hook and using defense matrix to protect anyone who is unfortunate enough to get grabbed. Once they are pulled in, just hold right click and Hog will be unable to deal damage to them. D.Va's ult is going to be utilized similarly to Bob. Just try and get a cheeky throw into his backline. Hog can survive with take a breather, so there's no real point in throwing it with intentions of hitting him. As with the rest of this guide, I will be gracing you with not one, but two counters on support. The first is obvious, the second is fun but a bit harder to execute. Make your choice. Ana is going to be the obvious counter here. She recently got buffed, so she does a decent amount of damage. She should always be played outside of Hog's range, and anti is nasty against Hog, completely negating take a breather, similarly but probably better than Orisa's spear. As Ana, your job is simple. Deal damage to the squishies from range, heal your team when needed, and most importantly, support and enable your team in taking down Hog. The first thing you need to realize as Ana in a Hog matchup is positioning and utility tracking will win you this game. You need to know when Hog has hook, when Hog has breather, and when Hog has ult. We track hook for one reason, to stay away from it. Realistically, there's nothing we can do consistently to stop Hog from hooking anyone but ourselves, but we need to know when he can hook to make sure we stay out of LOS and as far away as possible from him, as that hook distance stat is sus. Tracking Take a Breather is by far the most important job you have in this matchup. Anytime that Hog takes a breather, you should be getting anti on him so he can't heal. This will single-handedly win the game, as he won't be able to get utility out of one of his strongest abilities. Executing this can be tricky, as obviously you need to be in LOS of Hog to be able to anti him, which is why you need to keep track of his hook cooldown. For the most part, Hogs will telegraph the shit out of their breather and just walk brain dead into the middle of your team knowing they can get out. When you see Hog pushing harder than usual is when you want to make sure you have anti on the ready. The final thing you are tracking is Hog's ult. Hog, especially in his ult, is a big juicy target for two things, a sleep and then an anti-nade. In that order. The order here is important. If you nade then sleep, you will be wasting your nade. Ideally, you want to sleep him and wait out his ult. When he starts to wake up, your team can focus him, and when he goes to take a breather, you will hit him with an anti. As you can see, doing this backwards would not serve you or your team very well. Now, on to Funtime counter. Zenyatta is an amazing counter to Hog if you play it right. It is, however, also difficult to play right. Zen isn't going to be countering Hog in the classic ways that I stated at the beginning of this video, as Zen is an extremely unique character. He is going to allow your team to do significantly more damage than you could without his presence, and in Overwatch at a high level, damage is healing. As Zen, your job is going to be pretty simple. Put your Discord orb on the piggy and slam him with as much damage as humanly possible. Your orbs are a projectile with absolutely no damage falloff, and Hog is a massive slow-moving target. Stay far in the backline. You should be able to see your entire team in front of you, and fire away. It is incredibly important in this matchup that you are constantly checking your positioning, as if you get too close to Hog, you are a ridiculously easy target for a hook. Check out my support guide for more tips on positioning. Zen's ult is not going to be used to counter Hog's ult, as he can just push you away from the team while you are floating in the air. Instead, use your ult for a high value pick that he has hooked. Or just wait to use it to counter a Genji Blade or some other DPS ult. There is a lot of finesse that needs to go into this matchup, and honestly playing Zenyatta in general, but he can be highly effective if done right. If you're still here, drop a sub so you can get important counters the day they come out instead of losing SR until you search for my videos. Until next time.